Good afternoon guys and welcome back to driver testing with Mid-Handicap Dave. Today we've got the final driver of the test. We've got the Cobra LTD X. So I am using the LS version of this. So a drive that I've liked. I was very surprised. I didn't think I would go to it, but performed well. I like the sound of it. Dave, I'm already going to say maybe won't like the sound because it is a little bit duller. But looks wise, Dave, straight away, carbon top.
I think it looks nice. I think it's as nice as anyone that we've seen so far.
So
there's, you know, the turbulators, they probably don't call them turbulators because it's not ping, but the turbulators aren't as intrusive as they are on the 425, so people might like them. And they do direct you again into the middle of the face. So
yeah, so again, nice. Things on the driver there, obviously like Dave said there, the turbulators are pointing, well, trying to get you to centre the ball. Obviously the Cobra sign on the top again is to get that centre. So all things to help a mid-handicap get centred strike. Obviously it all relies on the swing, because if we swing it like Zorro, we're still not going to potentially hit the middle.
Very correct.
So looks wise, out of 10, Dave?
7. A 7.
7.
I'm not sure about the bits of colour at the back of the head.
Okay, so 7 out of 10. And again, guys, we know that you'll probably comment saying I don't really care about the looks, but it is a big thing. Even in putting, when you're picking a putt, it has to be something you like the look of down at the ball, something that you're confident with, as well as it has to perform. So straight in now, let's start to get the sound. This is a little bit of a duller sounding driver, so again, will Dave like that? We shall shortly see. Straight down the middle. Centred strike, Dave, or a little bit off centred?
Slightly toey, but not massively. Right, I'm not that keen on the sound.
So straight away off the bat with the sound, what are you saying?
I'm what, numbers wise?
Yep.
I'm saying a 7.
7, so a little bit lower than the other drivers, obviously lower than the PXG, lower than the Ping 425. So straight away needs to do some work to catch up. So looks wise a little bit behind, sound a little bit behind, so performance wise we just need to all these 300 yards and down the middle. Yeah, it goes well, Dave, happy with that?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So that's 2 good drives. Again, not perfectly struck the first one, but did get down there down the middle. That one also down the middle, so 2 for 2 so far.
Even though I've not hit those straight right off the centre, you know, it's pretty forgiving. They've stayed exactly straight.
Yeah, they've stayed exactly straight. So not off the centre, but they've stayed pretty straight. They're in play, and we've not had a miss hit. You'll see with all the other drivers, guys, over the past 4 weeks, we have had some miss strikes, some miss hits that could potentially cost Dave shots. So far here, although the sound's not fantastic, performance-wise, we could be making a good comeback. Dave did that on purpose, so not the finest of hits, Dave.
No, not the finest of hits, mate. Very bottomy.
Yeah, so very bottomy. So we'll get up there, guys.
That's not
That's a mid-handicap golfer, so we're expected to hit one like that. Let's see how far it is behind the 2 good shots that you hit, and then we'll compare in regards to performance in the studio. Okay, so we can see Dave's miss hit here. We've probably lost around about 50 yards on his ball just up there, so straight away a miss hit with the Cobra has lost a lot more distance than the other drivers, hasn't it?
Which is a shame, because you know the first 2 were really good hits, and it's you're thinking, oh, this could be the one, and a slight, well, a worse miss hit, and it's just taking it completely out of the sky.
Yeah, and we saw that on the previous hole. So the 425 also lost around about 30-40 yards, whereas the Ping and the Callaway, we know that the Callaway wasn't a winner, but the off-centred hit actually went further than a good centred hit. And with the PXG over there on the second, we saw that it only lost around about 5 or 6 yards.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what you want to expect from a mid-handicapper if you're miss-hitting your driver.
Because we're going to have, you know, that's why we've got a 12-13 handicap, whatever it is.
Exactly, so you're going to miss-hit shots, so you need to think what's going to be the most forgiving. Here straight away, performance-wise, we've lost a little bit too much, but we'll see what it says on the track now. So guys, final driver up was the Cobra. So Cobra wise, numbers again, pretty consistent. Yeah. First drive, pretty good, pretty solid, gone 221 yards. So longer shaft by nearly around about 2.5 inches. Yeah. Not really gone any further than the mini driver. Then after that, a couple of missed strikes down at 200 yards for that final one. So 205 yards. So a missed strike. Again, dispersion-wise, a lot more erratic than the Mini Driver. So it shows there for Dave. He's found the middle of the face there, but not gone as controlled as the Mini Driver.
Yeah, which is strange. But
which is strange, and obviously there we need to now rate them, obviously, with Dave's top 5. So out of those 5, we're going to talk through the averages now of what they are. So first of all, we had the Callaway Rogue Up, which, as we know, was 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So Dave didn't like the sound. It wasn't for him. We came inside. The numbers didn't really produce. The off-centered hits were worse or just as bad as with his M1. So is there any need to change? No, there isn't. No. Next up was the PXG. So PXG we rated at 8s.
We did.
All the way through the board. So again, nice and easy there. Around about an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So
numbers were okay.
Numbers when we came inside were not as good as what we saw outside. Again, on the golf course, it seemed to perform pretty well. Dave would have been happy and would have been like, oh, if I'd have tried this, it'd have been in the market to buy one.
Yeah.
Once we got in here, we saw the off-centered hits actually, although outside they did okay. In here, it was no real difference again going back to Dave's original M1. So 8 out of 10 on the board, but didn't do it for us. 425 came in at, we got 2 8s and a 7 out there. So the average would be around about 7.7 there. So just under the PXG. But when we came inside, big difference. So numbers wise, we were out there at 227, 230, 234. So the longest one we hit on the golf course, don't get me wrong, we did have a miss hit that didn't go more than 100 yards. But that's you're going to get those. As a mid-handicap golfer, Dave expects maybe not that bad, but there's the occasional one.
They're always going to happen, Chris.
They're always going to happen. But in here, numbers-wise, it was the most consistent for distance, but dispersion still wasn't so controlled. So we didn't have the accuracy of, okay, it was down the middle every time. We got length, but it was a little bit offline, which then brings into trees, into the summer, brings in a lot of trouble. We then went to the popular, or not popular as Dave seems to think.
No, I didn't think they were.
The Mini Driver did sell out, so they were very hard to get hold of. The Mini Driver, very similar length to Dave's driver, but because the head is smaller, it made Dave think, right, I've got to swing a little bit more in balance. To find the centre of the face, Dave had to swing within himself, which I'm constantly asking him to do, but whether he does it is a different question. But that's the same for everyone with a driver. I can't say anything. But the most consistent for distance, there was 2 yards in it, but the main thing was direction.
Straight down the middle.
Straight down the middle. Every one of them, all 3, was straight down the middle, no deviation.
But I wasn't hitting it that much off the toe either. So.
And it wasn't that much off the toe, so it was towards the centre, it was better, and the dispersion, which is the main thing for most mid-handicap golfers, we're not going to gain from getting you more distance 9 times out of 10. We're going to gain from making your misses closer to the fairway. Once we're in the fairway, we can get a better strike. We also don't go out of bounds, we don't go in water, we don't go in trees, we don't go in becks at Dave's course. Correct. So we're going to be more consistent. And in the summer at 220 yards, we're probably going to get another 20 yards. So Dave's going to be in that 240, which is more than enough for his club head speed. Again, club head speed is not the highest, but it still gets down there and it's in play, and we're giving ourselves the best chance of getting to the greens in 2. So rating the Mini Driver, we gave it, on the golf course, looks-wise, we gave it an 8 because it looks good. It is a little bit small, but that was not the problem. Sound, it was a little bit duller than Dave would like, so Dave gave that a 7, and then performance-wise, he gave it a 9. Yeah. So, again, averaging out at 8, which was up there with the PXG, so 8, but then when we came inside, true performance inside with the TrackMan, the numbers were the highest, so the percentage-wise, the consistency-wise, so that would take the Mini Driver into number 1 for Dave. We're looking at the PXG and the Ping probably tied second as it stands, and then the Cobra was the final driver. Again, looks-wise, we gave it a 7, I believe.
We did, so I didn't like the colours on the back.
Sound-wise was quite dull again, so I think, again, it was a 7 out on the golf course. Performance-wise, we dropped it down. I think it was 7 throughout the board, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Because we did lose around about 50-60 yards on the off-centred hit, which Dave said was him. The other performance ones were great, so even if it was an 8, again, we're coming in closer to the Callaway. So we're looking at the Callaway and the Cobra tying up really at the bottom of the pack, which again looks... To be fair, they actually look quite similar with the orange around the side. Sound very dull, which Dave didn't like. But again, in here, we're just not seeing any benefit. We're not seeing any benefit. We hit the M1 with a shorter shaft further than we did with this. Consistency wise, yes, it is 15 yards longer with a miss hit, but that's simply from the speed. It didn't help the dispersion. So overall, it's not going to be a winner. So overall, guys, the Mini Driver has took a win for a driver. This is the same shaft, so we can't get Dave into a longer shaft. We've tried and tried and tried. The senior shaft in the Ping was probably the best shaft, but it didn't help him any better than having the Mini Driver. So guys, like we said in this series, comment below what drivers you want to see. That is Dave's top 5 ranking of those. In number 1, the Mini Driver. In at number 2, tied second really, the Ping and the PXG, and then really a tied third, well, 4th, 5th, last we'll go with is the Cobra and the Callaway. But we do know there's a new Callaway coming, we do know there's a new Ping, there is the new Titleist TSR, and we'll see what else comes out. So guys, comment below what drivers you want to see. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and we will see you again next week.
See you soon.